You wake up one morning and your money is smaller. Not physically, the numbers haven't changed. Your bank app still says the same thing, but something is off. Yesterday, $10 bought you lunch. Today, it barely buys a sandwich. Nothing exploded. No alarms. No warning. Just less. That's inflation. And it's happening all the time. Let's make this uncomfortably simple. Imagine you have one chocolate bar. Yesterday, there were 10 kids and 10 chocolate bars. Everyone gets one. Fair. Today, there are still 10 kids, but now there are 20 chocolate bars. Sounds great, right? More chocolate for everyone. Except, something strange happens. The chocolate doesn't feel special anymore. People start trading 2 bars for things that used to cost 1. The chocolate didn't change, but its value did, because there's more of it. That's the core idea of inflation. More money chasing the same things. Now zoom out. Replace chocolate with money. Replace kids with an entire country. And suddenly, this isn't a playground problem. It's the entire economy. Right now, inflation matters because your life quietly depends on it. Rent, food, fuel. Everything you touch is priced based on this invisible force. And when inflation moves, everything moves with it. Slowly at first, then all at once. So how does it actually start? Not with greed. Not at first. It usually starts with a problem. A country hits a crisis, a recession, a pandemic, a war. People stop spending. Businesses slow down. Jobs disappear. The economy begins to freeze. And when that happens, governments and central banks step in. They do something very simple. They create money. Not by printing stacks of cash like in movies. That's the old image. Today, it's mostly digital. Numbers added to bank reserves. New money entering the system quietly. And the goal is clear. Get people spending again. Because spending is the engine. No spending, no economy. So they lower interest rates. Borrowing becomes cheap. People take loans. Businesses expand. Investors take risks. Money starts moving again. At first it works. Things feel better. But here's where it gets interesting. And slightly dangerous. Imagine pouring water into a glass. At first, the glass fills normally. But if you keep pouring, eventually it overflows. Money works the same way. If too much enters the system, it doesn't create more value. It just stretches prices. Now let's make it real. Say the government injects billions into the economy. People have more money in their accounts. They feel richer. So they spend more. On cars, food, rent, gadgets. Demand rises. But supply doesn't instantly catch up. Factories can't double overnight. Farms can't produce twice as fast. So what happens? Prices go up. Not because things are better, but because more people are chasing the same things. This is where inflation becomes visible. Groceries creep up. Fuel jumps. Rent climbs. And at first it feels manageable. Just a little more here, a little more there. But inflation has a personality. It compounds. If prices rise 5% this year and another 5% next year, you're not just paying 10% more. You're paying more than that. Because each increase stacks on the last. Quietly. Relentlessly. Now here's the uncomfortable part. Your salary doesn't always keep up. Sometimes it lags. Sometimes it doesn't move at all. So while prices climb, your purchasing power shrinks. This is why inflation feels unfair. Because it doesn't hit everyone equally. If you own assets, stocks, real estate, you might actually benefit. Prices rise. Asset values rise. But if you rely on a fixed income or savings sitting in a bank, inflation slowly eats it. Like rust. There's a quiet irony here. The system that's designed to stabilize the economy can quietly destabilize your personal. Now let's go deeper. Because inflation isn't just about too much money. That's the simple version. The real system is messier. There are different types of inflation. Demand pull inflation. Too many people buying too few goods. Cost push inflation. When production becomes more expensive. Think rising oil prices. Supply chain disruptions. Businesses raise prices just to survive. And then there's expectation-driven inflation. This one is subtle. If people believe prices will rise tomorrow, they behave differently today. They buy now. Businesses raise prices in advance. Workers demand higher wages. And just like that, inflation feeds itself. It becomes psychological. A self-fulfilling loop. Now think about that for a second. An entire economy moving based on what people think might happen. That's where things get fragile. Because controlling inflation isn't easy. Central banks try to manage it. They raise interest rates. Borrowing becomes expensive. People spend less. Demand cools. Prices stabilize. But there's a trade-off. Higher rates can slow the economy. Businesses cut back. Hiring slows. Growth weakens. So they're constantly balancing. Too little inflation and the economy stalls. Too much and it overheats. They aim for a sweet spot, usually around 2%, not 0, not high. Just enough to keep things moving. And that raises a strange question. Why not 0? Why not stable prices forever? Because mild inflation actually encourages spending. If you know things will be slightly more expensive next year, you're more likely to buy today. That keeps the system alive. So inflation isn't just a bug. It's part of the design. But like any system, it can go too far. History has seen what happens when inflation breaks control. Prices doubling in months, sometimes days, money losing meaning entirely. People carrying cash in bags just to buy bread. That's extreme. But it reveals something important. Money only works because we believe it works. And inflation tests that belief. Now let's bring it back to you. Right now. Your daily life. You notice prices rising. Food costs more. Transport costs more. Everything feels slightly heavier. You adjust. Maybe you cut back. Maybe you earn more. Maybe you don't. But over time, those small adjustments become a new normal. And that's how inflation wins. Not with a shock, but with a slow shift. Here's the quiet mechanism most people miss. Inflation doesn't just raise prices. It changes behavior. People save differently. Invest differently. Take more risks, or fewer. Businesses change strategies. Governments change policies. It reshapes decisions at every level. And yet, most of it happens invisibly. No headline, no breaking news. Just numbers drifting upward. There's another layer to this, one that's rarely discussed. Inflation can act like a hidden tax. When governments create money, they're effectively reducing the value of existing money, including yours. No bill arrives, no vote is required. But the effect is real. Your purchasing power declines. And unlike taxes, it's not evenly distributed. Which brings us to the contrast. The story people are told versus the reality they experience. The story says inflation is necessary, controlled, managed, a sign of a growing economy. And sometimes that's true. But the reality can feel different. Paychecks stretched thinner, savings losing weight, uncertainty creeping in. Both things can exist at once. That's what makes it complicated. Now zoom out again. Think globally. Inflation isn't isolated. One country's policy affects another. Supply chains connect everything. Energy prices ripple across borders. Currencies shift. So when inflation rises in one place, it can spread quietly. And in a connected world, those ripples travel fast. Which leads to a bigger question. If inflation is built into the system, and managing it requires constant intervention, then is it ever truly under control? Or is it something we simply adjust to, over and over again, as the numbers climb, and the value quietly slips away? Because the next time prices rise, it won't feel like a theory. It'll feel like less. And the uncomfortable part is,